we're about 3/4 of the way through a sort of 1,600 home scheme, spread over, I think, about 4 disparate areas. There's been an understanding of the kind of accumulative impact of all of those challenges that I've just talked about, and Lovell have had to flex, and the council have understood that and have kind of flexed with us. And I think without that pragmatic approach and that understanding, then things stall and you can't really drive projects forward.
Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 million new homes, the local government challenge, sponsored by Redloft and Lovell Partnerships. And every month I'm visiting a different council to find out what works and what needs to change to get more homes built. And this month we're in the Royal Borough of Greenwich, and I've come to the Morris Walk estate to meet Becca Harrall from Lovell to talk about how they're delivering 1,600 new homes.
So I'm Becca Harrall, I'm the Senior Development Manager, I work at Lovell, and we are standing in one of the phases of the One Woolwich regen scheme. This is Morris North, or Trinity Park, and these are Greenwich's units, Greenwich's homes behind us.
The council's own homes that you've delivered on their behalf.
Yes.
And what's the scheme? How big is this?
Well, so the scheme is huge. I'll tell you a little bit about how the sort of partnership came about.
Yeah.
This all goes back to 2013, when Lovell responded to the council's competition and were delighted to win the bid. And it was very ambitious in terms of sort of scale and duration. And I think that we all sort of understood at that time that to sort of make it work, we'd all need to, be very committed to finding a long-term partner. And that's what we've done, basically. So we have, we're about 3/4 of the way through a sort of 1,600 home scheme, spread over, I think, about 4 disparate areas. We've delivered some really nice, good quality architecture and some thriving neighbourhoods. So we've transformed some neighbourhoods that were really struggling with sort of outdated architecture and outdated kind of compromised amenity, and put some thriving communities in their place.
And who have you done that with? You mentioned long-term partners.
Yes, so it's Lovell and Greenwich and PA Housing, the affordable housing provider.
Yeah. And who's responsible for the look, the design and the feel of it all?
So we've worked with PRP, who have helped us master plan at the whole scheme, actually, and we've been really pleased with the way that the master planning works and the quality of the architecture, but also the quality of the build and the quality of the spaces that it's created.
So tell me, when you say quality of the architecture, quality of the build, what do you mean by that? What, in layman's terms, how do I know a good one from a bad one?
Well, I think that they're nice places to be, and the architecture is it's varied in its typology, and it's not all uniform, and there's we're concentrating on creating a sense of place rather than just trying to cram as many units or homes as we can into a small area. And I think that I don't know if you can see this, but the kind of the variety of the typologies and the heights and then the style themselves of the buildings just make it really interesting.
What is good to you as Lovell in designing and regenerating?
Well, there's lots of things have been good. We have delivered 1,000 homes over the last 5 years, and there's about 600 more homes to come. We have delivered some really, really lovely places and high quality buildings. And there have been some really positive social outcomes, social value outcomes with the project. So the social value aspect of it, I think that's always been kind of at the heart of the One Woolwich scheme. The idea was that we wanted, as a partnership, to create sort of impacts and opportunities that would last beyond the build. So just as an example, very early on, we created a kind of employment and skills plan with the council, and that's had some really meaningful results. So we've engaged with over 6,000 students through kind of careers events and school visits and such. And we've provided over 100 apprenticeships.
Wow.
Yeah. And
just on this scheme?
Yes. And there's actually a young guy who will be around here somewhere who grew up near here in this area. And he came to do work experience in the site offices as part of kind of one of the local programmes. And he really enjoyed it. And then he was invited back, and he's now has a permanent position as a trainee site manager, helping to shape basically the community in which he grew up. So it's a really nice story.
That's fantastic. Is that a rare story in apprenticeships? Do many of them stay on so that the value that you're adding sort of exists beyond the scheme itself?
Yes, I think that there's been a couple of instances where people have come back and we've sort of, the programme has inspired them to sort of come back and be involved or go on to join the construction industry.
Excellent. And so we talked about the successes, but it's not all easy, is it? Otherwise, everyone would be doing it all the time. So where are the challenges in getting a scheme like this delivered, and also in managing partnerships, like the partnership with your suppliers, with your with the architects, and of course with the council?
So the challenges. So we've it's a long programme, and I think delivering Regen on this scale in a partnership with a private developer and a local authority is tricky. So marrying up the kind of the agendas of each organisation and also the sort of the methods of working can be extremely difficult. But we've done it, and we've done it for more than a decade now. So I think that's just testament to how strong the relationship is. And there's been lots of changes over the last 10 years, particularly in the last few years. We've seen, supply issues. What have we seen? We've seen build cost inflation. We've seen regulation changes. And build cost inflation is obviously the big one. And that's been, so the industry is sort of seeing a kind of perfect storm of obstacles and challenges, which is reflected in the kind of the new start stats.
In there aren't any.
Yes. Yeah. And then the big one is demand. So I think there's a misconception at the moment about demand for housing outstripping supply, which we're not really seeing. So we're very cautious as a business and as a partnership, I think. Because we just don't know whether the buyers are really out there. So something can look really great on paper, but actually there's uncertainty about whether there's anybody at the end who wants to buy a product.
So this is this weird paradox from the outside of there being incredible need for housing in terms of temporary accommodation, in terms of waiting lists for council housing and so on. But at the same time, very little demand for private sales, for people buying on the private market.
It does seem like that.
And because of that, the private sector can't accelerate its housing delivery programme because you're reliant on private sales to subsidise the cost of building social housing.
Yes, there'll always be a cautiousness, and it will be reflected in the number of projects that actually start, and that's the reality.
So what's the way around that? How do we get around that problem?
It's an affordability issue, isn't it? And I think that interest rates going up and the cost of living, it just means that people are harder pressed, and there's the affordability. It's an affordability issue. And then some of the other challenges, I think with Greenwich, the partnership itself, we've weathered a lot in that time. We've managed to come through it and find a way through it because we do have a strong relationship, and we've been able to have the difficult conversations, and people have stayed at the table basically, and we've managed to find our way through. So that's been really great, and I think that sort of pragmatic approach has been really, really helpful.
So is it really that simple? Is the reason that this scheme is still delivering when other schemes have stalled because of the relationship between you and the council, your partner?
I think that's a big factor, but I also think that which is great with Greenwich, there's been an understanding of the kind of accumulative impact of all of those challenges that I've just talked about, and Lovell have had to flex, and the council have understood that and have kind of flexed with us. And I think without that pragmatic approach and that understanding, then things stall and you can't really drive projects forward.
And when Lovell flexes, what is it that you're flexing?
We have to think about sales pace, which is something that we've talked about. We have to think about just viability on the whole, affordability, build costs, all of those things need to flex and move. A sort of development agreement that was sort of conceived of in 2013 is it really fit for purpose in a 13 years later? basically, when the economy and the environment is completely different, the landscape's totally changed.
And then from the partners' point of view, from Greenwich Council's point of view, where do they have to flex in order to enable you to keep delivering?
I think it's just a constant conversation about how quickly we can deliver things, and the viability, the land value. And I think the fact that we've so in the last 5 years we've delivered 1,000 homes. There's lots of good things still happening. Behind us here we've got 500 homes under construction. Yeah. What's really momentous is last week we got planning permission for the final phase of the whole regeneration scheme, which is great, and we'll start on site on the last phase just after Christmas.
So when does that finish? When is the whole regeneration project?
Right at the beginning of 2029.
2020, so 2013 to 2029.
Yes.
To deliver how many homes?
Just over 1,600.
1,600 homes. I mean, that
over 6 phases.
And that indicates the scale of what and the duration of these schemes, and the period of time and all of the turbulence and changing circumstances that you have to maintain those relationships for.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and you need continuity, and it's difficult to sort of maintain that over such a long period of time. I mean, I've been working on the project for 8 years, I think, and I've obviously seen lots of people come and go. So you do need that continuity if you can get it.
Becca, thank you very much for maintaining that continuity and for your role in getting those 1.5 million new homes built. And that's it for this episode of 1.5 million new homes, the Local Government Challenge, sponsored by Redloft and by Lovell Partnerships. We're going to be back in a few days with more from Greenwich, so click like, click subscribe, and you won't miss those episodes, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.